despite the fact that the NBA tried to put 1,000 bells and whistles onto that game, it was ironically one of the more boring events I think I've ever seen. I can catch up on this in 30 seconds the next day. I did not have to sit there through everything and watch that bad basketball game.
Yeah, you actually stayed in longer than me because you sent me the text, who are these people performing at halftime? And I was shocked. You got to halftime of this garbage?
Don't make me look like a loser. I didn't know who they were.
Nothing worse than a non-defense basketball game. You might as well.
The Pro Bowl. I mean, let's be fair. The Pro Bowl was terrible.
All All-Star games are pretty bad.
Yeah.
But something about the way they were standing around last night was even worse than ever. Now, here's the thing. How does it fit into the bigger picture of where the NBA is? Because it didn't really feel all that different from the NBA regular season.
Well, that's bad.
Yeah, I mean, listen, with load management, no defense, everyone's scoring 60 points a game. I do feel like this did not exist in a vacuum. It feels like the NBA does not have the same level of regular season competition it used to have. I don't think that's a hot take. That's just fact.
Yeah, I think the NBA, is it an effort problem? I think it's just everyone has these very competing interests from game to game. Is it in the best interest for this star to sit? Okay, then they sit. Is it in the best interest for this other star to sit? Okay, they sit. Is it in the best interest for us to win this game or lose this game? That's something that your Philadelphia 76ers turn into an art form with the process. And so I think the All-Star game is probably just like the most egregious example of it. But yeah, I think the NBA has a problem with like, why am I watching this regular season game if it doesn't appear to matter?
Well, it really doesn't matter. 20 out of 30 teams make the playoffs now with the play-in tournament, if you call that the playoffs.
Yeah.
So that means there's 10 teams who don't make it, and they're probably tanking. So, especially this year for Victor Wembanyama. So, basically, what are we watching here? Do people, as you said, do people want to win? Do they care? Now, it's amazing with all that. The fact that LeBron has to play the games of his life to get into the playoffs is kind of sad.
Yeah.
But I think the rule in sports is as you expand the playoffs, the regular season means less. We're going to see that in college football. The NBA has probably expanded the playoffs too far, and the regular season is too long. It always has been. That leaves us with a really, really watered-down product, and it bothers me as an NBA fan. I'm a lifelong NBA fan.
Yeah.
I just cannot get up for these games, Maggie. On a Tuesday night, I don't even know what I'm watching.
You made a great point to me earlier where you said, is the NBA becoming more like Major League Baseball, where you care about your team and you want to watch the 76ers, and I kind of have a problem with the team I grew up rooting for right now, considering I'm not allowed in the building, but, you know, my team, whatever. Do you root more for your team than just like, hey, I'm going to tune in on a random Thursday night because I really want to watch, you know, LeBron versus Curry. But if LeBron's not playing and Curry's not playing, or if I want to watch Memphis play, you know, OKC, but I don't have no Ja Morant, am I still going to hang around for that game?
Probably not.
Yeah.
I think that's a great point. Adam Silver, when he was talking about load management, said that local revenue is still really strong.
Yeah, ticket sales are high.
That sounds like everything that they've been saying about Major League Baseball, and yet MLB is irrelevant in the national scope of things in a large way. Now, I don't know if NBA is seeing that yet. There's lots of rating stories with the NBA. Who knows how people are consuming the sport anymore? But
TikTok.
There's another big factor here, too, Maggie.
What's that?
Who is the one player that everybody wants to watch?
LeBron?
He's 38.
Yeah, I know.
What happens when this is the peak LeBron. We're getting to see LeBron. Can you imagine this league in 2 years when he goes away? Who are we going to tune in for?
I know. I didn't think that was going to be a problem because Ja Morant is so exciting. The idea of Zion is good. We don't see this guy play very often, if ever. You know, you do have like the Donovan Mitchells. These guys are young and exciting. But again, am I tuning in to watch just a random Cavs game? Or do I have to live in Cleveland and be a diehard Cavaliers fan to be on every game that Donovan Mitchell's going to play in?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's only one tune-in player, that's Zion. Everybody else is, I don't know, even Ja Morant. It's great, but I don't need to watch the Grizzlies versus the Clippers. I don't even need to watch the Mavs, and they have Luka and Kyrie. That's a little more interesting. Yeah, it's a league that is defined by its stars, and even the stars don't have the same grasp. So, and by the way, so all that being said, what are they supposed to do about it?
About the regular season?
About the regular season, about the All-Star game, about the lack of competitiveness that is permeating throughout this sport.
Wait, let's hear from Mike Malone, because this is the coach, one of the coaches, obviously Denver Nuggets, of course, who was commenting on the game last night.
It's an honor to be here. It's an honor to be a part of a great weekend, great players, but that is the worst basketball game ever played.
I mean, wrap it up in a bow, Coach. Perfect. The worst basketball game ever played. And you know what? Like, I'm not that far behind him. Now, ironically, I actually thought the dunk contest was good.
But I'm a huge Saturday All-Star Weekend fan. I've never liked the game. The game hasn't been good since, what was it, Magic hit the last second shot. I've seen all these clips of Kobe trying in the game. I wasn't even into that. When I was a kid, I was in the game, but the game's never as good as the festivities.
As the Saturday night. Yeah, the dunk contest, which I never thought was going to deliver in 100 years. You and I were clowning the field. Who are these guys? Yeah. We have only no Kenyon Martin Jr. because of his dad, and we only know Sims because he plays in New York. And, who's Mac McClung? Well, turns out Mac McClung, pretty famous guy. He's has 15 minutes of fame right now. He's introducing Post Malone last night like he's hosting SNL, which was a hilarious thing you said.
Yeah.
I think that the dunk contest oddly saved the whole thing for me because Sunday night was just terrible.
Yeah, I mean, Mac McClung was notable and probably saved the dunk contest for next year in case they were going to get rid of it. But the game was so bad. I think they got to get rid of the draft, too. That was good for a little while. Now go back to East-West. At least have some sort of, identity. The drafting the players makes it even less competitive because they're all buddies and you don't want to show up anybody. I don't like the draft. I understand Jaylen Brown versus Jason Tatum happened last night.
Yeah.
But nothing's working here. Go back to the old way.
Well, I think the draft basically underscored the one argument you've been making about Jokic and why you are so on like the warpath that Jokic should not win a third consecutive MVP. He was picked second to last night. only ahead of Lauri Markkanen, who was like playing because he's like from the Jazz. This was terrible. Jokic, that was an embarrassment to Jokic.
Are you buying Jokic's excuse?
What was his excuse?
His excuse was he didn't realize that Markkanen was still on the stage, and so he just assumed he was the last pick and just started walking down. I'm not buying it for a second. There's two people sitting there.
Dude.
There's no way he didn't notice a 7'2" guy standing next to him.
Yeah, it's not like Markkanen is small, but also I would do the same thing if I were him. I'm a 2-time MVP. I'm not getting picked last, even if I have to just walk over to LeBron's team. But it's what you say about, is
No. I don't think, I kind of disagree with that. You pick your all-star team on who's more exciting. You don't pick it. Obviously, Joker is the least exciting player in the NBA.
If you're the 2-time MVP, though, don't you?
You're telling me Lauri Markkanen is more exciting? If he chose like John Morant over him or something, but he chose Lauri Markkanen was the other option.
That was funny you brought up John Morant because even Giannis had no idea who were the starters and who were the reserves. This was him trying to take Morant as a reserve.
Our third pick is going to be one of the most exciting rising star, superstar in the league right now, John Morant. He's a starter.
I hate to break it to you, but he's starting.
So what?
To be fair, who can keep up? He was replacing Steph Curry. The whole thing, it was just, I don't know. You mentioned about the draft. Does that need to go away? Stu and I were talking about this before the show. So, Stu, you tuned in what time?
Around 7:30 Eastern time.
That's when you were told the game was going to be starting. And you kind of give like, all right, maybe a half an hour, give or take.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Got several anthems that we have to sing. Canadian, you got the one for the United States. You got a lot of pomp and circumstance to do. But 7:30, that's when the draft started.
That's right, yes.
And that took 45 minutes.
It took a while, yes.
And then, no, it wasn't quite that long. Post Malone came in and did a concert in between.
Another, put your palms to the sky. Why? If you're choosing, so the whole idea was they were going to choose up sides right before the game to make it like simulate an actual pickup game. When you go and play pickup basketball every Saturday morning, when you go play your run, Perloff, do you guys pick teams and then go take a water break for 20 minutes and then go play?
Yeah, but
that makes no sense. Just get out there and play.
I don't think that would make a difference. By the way, I'm looking at the order of the draft. I mean, it's amazing. I think you take the most exciting guy. Would you rather? All right, the first pick was Anthony Edwards. Is there any doubt? Wouldn't you guys pick Anthony Edwards first? Why on earth would you want to play with Joker?
Because I think you're trying to win the game, no?
What?
Okay.
But look at all the boring players who were drafted. Anthony Edwards, exciting. then Jaylen Brown. Then you got into the Paul George, Tyrese Halliburton, Julius Randle. I mean, is there anyone who wants to watch that guy in an All-Star game? Anyone on planet Earth?
Well, Jalen Brunson probably would have been the better selection, quite frankly, from the Knicks.
My favorite was the last pick of the reserves was Jaren Jackson Jr.
Yeah.
And they're trying to make him sound exciting. They're like, ooh. And finally, some defense on this team. I'm like, oh, gosh.
Don't worry. He's not going to play any defense.
Yeah.
The score was 1,000 to 1,001.
But I do think I actually tweeted this out and took it aside. Like, a lot of these All-Star types are not that super exciting players anyway. Luka's not meant for the All-Star game. He's not Vince Carter or Kobe Bryant or LeBron James even.
Right.
It's just weird. I think the All-Star game was doomed from the start, but they somehow made it worse than it even could have been.
Totally. And I'm a huge NBA fan. I worked at the NBA. I love the NBA. The All-Star game has passed me by. And if the kids love it, then good. Then the NBA will be happy about that. But I do agree with you. It sort of sets in this narrative that, like, what really matters, right? Like, that's the problem right now with the NBA regular season. It's not specifically load management or specifically tanking or specifically this, or it's all of it together. That's the problem.
Yep.
It's like, Adam Silver really, pushed back on the idea that load management and guys sitting out for rest, was really hurting the league. He's like, well, that's not true. Guys play through injuries too, with this and that. It's like, no. It's not just about, we're using load management, I think, is kind of a catch-all. It's fake injuries that don't exist, where guys are just saying, I have tendonitis, is the oldest one in the book, because they don't want to, not that they don't want to play, because the doctors are telling them it's not advisable. And the players are on this, and the commissioner's on it, and the owners are on it. So here's the bottom line. It's not changing. There's no pushback. You going to finally see Steph Curry or someone come to your arena and him not playing, that's not going anywhere. And so I don't know if, as a fan, what you're to do, because the ticket prices keep going up and up.